Hey, it's Stasi, and today we are doing a book haul. The last time I uploaded a book haul here was mid-2023, so this is pretty much every book I've acquired in the second half of that year, over the past 6 months. There are definitely too many books by my standards. I literally at the moment have like piles of books everywhere. I have definitively run out of space on my shelves. It's actually a problem at this point. So let's just get right on into it with little rhyme or reason to how we go through these. I have the Grisha trilogy, so Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, Ruin and Rising. I saw them as a box set for really cheap, and I have read Shadow and Bone before, but I haven't read the rest of the series, and particularly because like the Six of Crows duology was my favourite thing I read last year, I got these because I could found them for really cheap. So but this is, yeah, YA fantasy series, and I know everyone is obsessed with the Darkling. I don't even remember much about Shadow and Bone. I remember thinking it was like I enjoyed it, but it was like fine when I read it, but yeah, I just need more something after Six of Crows. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. This is not a thing I ever thought I would own. However, Melbourne Bookish Book Club does book swaps every month, and sometimes the book swap pile looks, you know, there's not a lot going for it. So this was kind of my best option that month, and I feel like I have to read it now because I have it physically, but I've never really had any desire to read a Colleen Hoover because I suspect that I will not like it. Like, everything I've heard about her books does not fill me with confidence, basically, but I have this, I don't know what is going on outside or what those children are doing, but there are loud noises. At the same time that I got the Grisha trilogy, I also got the Shadow first 3 books in the series. Another thing that I didn't necessarily really want to own, but it, again, for Melbourne Bookish Book Club, Shadow was voted as the book everyone wanted to read one month. I had never had any desire to read it. I didn't suspect that I would like it. And I was right, I did not like it. But I couldn't get it from the library in time, and this box set of 3 was like the same price as I could get like just the first book in a lot of places. So again, I might continue it because I have the next 2, but I wasn't a big fan of the first one. I've definitely passed this phase of YA. I never read it when it was popular. And I'm definitely past that cringy type of stuff now. I'm about to show you a book that was actually in my last haul, but that's because this is my second copy of it, because just after I hauled that one, I got gifted it again. So I have 2 copies of Fourth Wing, so thank you to like the person who gifted it to me. It was in like a book fair exchange, but I have 2 of the exact same thing. I need to find something to do with this second copy, but yeah, dragon fantasy that like everyone couldn't stop talking about last year, and it's not a good book. Although this one I did enjoy, but it's not a good book, and now I have 2 of them. I went to an indie bookworm event last year, so had a bunch of indie authors obviously, and I bought a few books there. I have Blessed by the Maiden by Demi Clarissa, which I think is a romantasy. I haven't read any of these yet. I have Fowler's Fair by Elise Hay, which seems to be like a witchy urban fantasy type situation where she's hunts supernatural criminals, which is my kind of thing. And then I have Awaken by G.R. Thomas. This is the only one of these indie authors who I have read from before. I've read her like YA horrors, but this is a fantasy. But yeah, all of the authors were lovely. It was, I'm not gonna say it was a great event, just for me personally. Like, the event was well put on. I was just not feeling great the weekend I went, but that's where these came from, and I need to get to them. I really need to commit this year to like reading my physical TBR, because clearly it has gotten out of hand. I have a couple of books here that were sent to me by Penguin, so thank you so much to the publisher for sending these to me. I have Fortuna Sworn by KJ Sutton, which this isn't a new book, but Penguin is publishing it now. It must have been indie published previously, and I believe this is also falls into the romantasy category. And I have Threads That Bind, which is a YA fantasy. I'm like so keen to read this, and yet I haven't gotten to it yet. I've had a problem with like reading my physical books because so much of my reading last year was audiobooks or ebooks. It's a bit of a problem, but I swear I will get to these and I will review them, because I do also feel bad because they were sent to me by the publisher to review, but I'm excited for them. This one particularly is like mythology inspired, and there's like a murder and they're trying to find out what happened with that. Like, it all sounds very cool. I don't believe I hauled this one previously. Dragon Age, the first 5 graphic novels. I'm a big Dragon Age fan. I like graphic novels. I love Bella. But Melbourne Bookish Book Club's trivia, our team came first, so we won book like vouchers for a bookstore, and this is what I got with that. Again, I haven't gotten to it, but like I'm so keen to because I love Dragon Age so much. Yeah, I don't really know what's in here beyond, it's obviously Dragon Age related. I don't know like where the stories go or what exactly it covers. I just saw like one of my favourite characters from Dragon Age 2 though, so that's a good start. The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. I really enjoyed one of Caitlin Starling's previous books. Was she the one who wrote The Luminous Dead? That's what I want to say that, but I could be wrong, but I know she's definitely written a book that I have read and enjoyed before. This is also, I know, a book that Ali, as in Ali with a Y, I know too many Alis, but I know that she was obsessed with this book when she read it. It was like the favourite book of that year, and I was definitely directly recommended this from her, and I have not read it yet, but I did purchase it. Part of the reason it took me, like, I hadn't read it for so long was because I couldn't access it anywhere. It was a book that like hadn't come to Australia, but I finally realised that the paperback had finally come here like late last year, so I got it so that I can read it at some point. I think it's like gothic horror. I don't remember anything else about it. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, I believe, is another book that I got from a book swap. This is obviously a pretty well known one. There's a movie and everything, and I have seen the movie. You know, it kind of draws on that like 80s nostalgia and gaming because it's like a virtual reality game that has a lot of that kind of to it, and he's like trying to find the key to like own the game or win something after the creator like had died or something. I'm not giving you any good explanations of plots, mostly because I often don't like to know too much of the plot intentionally of books I haven't read yet. And then even something like this, where I've seen the movie, so technically I know the plot, but like sometimes that stuff doesn't stay in my brain very well. So, but this is another book I have. Stormfront by Jim Butcher. This is an urban fantasy series. I think he's a private investigator in like a supernatural type world. I think that's the theme of this. I have seen people talk about this to an extent where I think the female representation in this series and the way women are treated is definitely going to bother me. But I decided to pick it up because I saw it in an op shop for very cheap. Yeah, $3. It was $3 at an op shop, which, if you don't know what an op shop is, it's basically like our thrift shops here. So because it was $3, I decided to pick it up. Because even though, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to go with this one. I think it'll be interesting, but I think there'll be elements that bother me. But I want to read more adult fantasy in general, so I picked this one up. Low Chicago, edited by George R.R. Martin. It's something about time travel. This is something to do with like time travel and maybe the 1920s. Obviously George R.R. Martin is the author of Game of Thrones. I was intrigued enough by what it said on the back, but the reason I ended up with this is because it was a free book at my library. It was one of those, you know, books that the library lays out the front on a table, like, these are free, take them, when they're getting rid of books. So That's why I ended up with this one. This also just reminds me that I need to continue Song of Ice and Fire because I never read past the first book. But that's a different story. The Roommate Pact by Alison Ashley. This is another book that was sent to me by the publisher. This one's publisher is Harlequin. And this is a romance where we have obviously a couple of roommates. But we have these roommates, one's a nurse, one's a firefighter, and they end up making a pact, basically, that if they're still single by 40, they'll become friends with benefits. But the timeline kind of changes when the firefighter gets into an accident and is bedridden, and so our nurse character is the one looking after him. I have read this one. This was actually the very first book I read this year, and I did enjoy it. There were things that I didn't love about it, but overall I did really enjoy this one. So I do have like a brief review up on Goodreads and things like that. But yeah, I liked this one. Mr. Magic by Kirsten White. I mentioned this recently in my top 10 books of the year video, my best books of 2023 video, because I did really enjoy this one. This was one of our Slaughter Squad book club reads. You know, I buddy read this with Vanessa and Ali, and yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. It draws somewhat on nostalgia, because it references a bunch of like TV shows that were around when I was a child and things like that. But the whole concept is that there was this children's show that there is now no record of, like there's no formal record of. Like people remember it and talk about it on forums, but there's no like formal record of it anywhere. You can't watch it anywhere. But then the situations in this book are that the children who were on this show are now all grown up and they've reunited, and we find out more about stuff that's happening, and yeah, I really like this one. So I think that's all my paperbacks. So we now are up to my special editions. I have never been a special edition girly, but I did end up subscribing to a couple of subscription boxes mid last year because I wanted at least a few pretty boxes, at least a few pretty books. I have too many now, and I don't know what to do about my Fairy Loot subscription because I don't want both, but I don't want to cancel because, as you'll see, I kind of have half a series currently. So like if they're going to release the rest of the series, I kind of want those special editions. So like I need to stay subscribed to Fairy Loot. Anyway, that's a whole other issue. But let's go through all the special editions that I acquired in the second half of the year. Firstly, I have a few books from a company I no longer support because it seems very clear that they have been using AI art. But when they were called out on it, they denied that they were using AI art. But it seems pretty clear that some of it is AI art. And, you know, I have a lot of feelings about that. So I no longer support the company, but I have 3 of their books from when I did get a few of their like monthly boxes, just so I could have a few special editions that are pretty. So I have The Anatomy of Songs by Megan White. I have Crown of Ivy and Glass by Claire Legrand. This is the only one of these books that I have actually read. This was another one of our Slaughter Squad book club reads. I didn't really like this one though. And these are all fantasy books, all like romantasy. And I have Crown of Blood and Glass by Lucinda Dark and Rebecca Gray. I don't really know anything about these two. The one I've read follows a woman who is like allergic to magic, and her family also has like a rivalry with another family, and then a guy comes along that she really likes. Stuff happens. They're pretty, but I'm not real happy with the company. And then all the other books that I have then are going to be my Fairy Loot books. Sorry, I have one more book from that other company, which is Bring Me Your Midnight by Rachel Griffin. Again, don't know anything about this one either, but it's pretty. But in terms of Fairy Loot, most of the books are just ones I got from like the monthly subscription box. The only books that I purchased separately were these, which are the first 3 Vampire Academy books. So have Vampire Academy, we have Shadow Kiss, and we have Frostbite. Now, These are books that I loved as a teenager. I've read Vampire Academy as an adult and had like mixed feelings about it, but I loved this series as a teenager, and I no longer had any of my copies because before we had one of our moves, or before I moved out of home essentially, I got rid of like probably 2/3 of my books. Like before I moved out of home, I think I got rid of about 2/3 of my books. And amongst that, one of the series that did not make the cut to keep was the Vampire Academy series. As I said, I did love it as a teenager, so I didn't get rid of it because I didn't like it or want to own it in that respect, but I hated the covers so much. I hate the Vampire Academy covers so much, and I always did, and also all of the copies I had were those really large paperbacks. I also had all of the spin-off series, Bloodlines, which I possibly liked even more, to be honest. But I also got rid of those because they were ugly covers and they were massive books because they were all massive paperbacks. So they took up so much of the bookshelf all on their own. So that's why I got rid of them. Because I figured if I really wanted to read them, you know, I could read ebooks of them or something like that. This was also when I like first started reading ebooks, which is part of the reason I got rid of so many books, because I was like, I can just read ebooks. I don't need to own this many physical books. And now I've kind of started creeping back into the physical bookland a bit in an extreme way. But yeah, so I didn't own any Vampire Academy books. So when I saw that these were releasing, I couldn't resist so that I could own copies that aren't hideous, because the original covers are hideous. They make me mad. Yeah, so I have these. So this is what I'm holding out for, basically. I want the rest of the series, and then I can leave and never buy another special edition again. Alright, on to the rest of the Fairy Loot editions. This is the only adult Fairy Loot book I have. I only got past the waiting list for the adult Fairy Loot at the very end of the year, so I only have December's book, and so now I'm considering cancelling the YA subscription. One, because I don't read YA as much anymore. Like when you look at like a graph of my reading, it was a pretty large slice of the pie that was exclusively adult books, but also I just don't need more stuff. So I don't need the full like items and book box, so I think I'm going to cancel that. But regardless, the adult book for December was Feybound by Sarah L. Arafi. I actually don't really know anything about this beyond the fact I know a lot of people were excited this. I know this was on a lot of people's anticipated reads for 2024. I think it's Fae from memory, and that's possibly all I really remember. And I also know that we also got this early, technically, because it didn't come out until January. I don't know if it's global, but here particularly, I don't think it's out. I don't think it's even out yet. So yeah, this is possibly like my favorite book that I've received. You love a night theme. This is probably the book I'm most excited to get to out of all of these Fairy Loot books. Is it partially because it's the only adult book? Maybe. And now I have all these YA books that I need to get to, and it's a problem, but regardless. Another book I am actually really interested in is Bonesmith by Nikki Powell Prato. First of all, just like, this character looks very cool. Obviously I've ended up putting the postcard on here and stuff because I just think she looks cool. But I think this is like something to do with the dead or necromancers or something like that from memory, and it's obviously a YA fantasy. But yeah, definitely vibes that I can get behind. I definitely want to get to this one sooner rather than later. I think this was the December YA book. I have never heard of this book. If I Have to Be Haunted by Miranda Sun. It's pretty, but I have no idea what this book is. I don't even know what this one's about. Apparently she can speak to the dead. So that's this one. And then I have 3 books left. They're all still in their sleeves because I only just got them out of the boxes because I haven't even packed away all the stuff in the boxes in these endless piles that have been gathering. I think this was the very first one I received, I think. Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton. So this would have been... I think this one was actually in my last book haul because I think my first Fairy Loot, I'm pretty sure I unboxed in my last book haul, so you would have seen this one already. This is a surprise because I don't know which one's in what. Oh, I have Threads That Bind. Obviously, I do already own this book, as I said. I technically own 2 copies of this book now because the publisher did send me a copy, and then just after the publisher sent me a copy, it happened to be the next book that came in Fairy Loot. So, you know, hopefully I really like this book. This is another one of my favorite, like, aesthetically. I love how this book looks. Yeah, I'm excited to get to this. I'll probably definitely be reading the paperback because I don't like reading hardbacks, which is why I've never really bought special editions, particularly before. And now I have too many, and I don't know what to do with them because I don't have space for them. But I need to move on. And then the very last book I have here, the last Fairy Loot edition. No, this must have been December's. I know I filmed an unboxing on TikTok of a Fairy Loot recently-ish, and I think it was the last one yeah, no, it was. This was the December book because I remember unboxing this in a TikTok video. So this was the December YA book, What the River Knows, Isabel Ibanez. This is another one I don't think I've heard of. Looks like it's set in Egypt and parents have passed away because of mysterious circumstances. Yeah. So that's what I have. A lot of books, too many books for me because I have run out of space, and also not many books that I've actually read within those 6 months. I'm stressed. Looking, like, now there's just books all around me and it's stressing me out. Yeah, so definitely a goal of this year is to read down my physical TBR. And, like, if I don't like books, I will get rid of them and that will free up space. And I need to, like, not buy books this year. Like, unless I, like, need to because it's the only way I can access a book for a book club or something, I think I'm gonna stick to the library, the subscription services I have, and ebooks for the most part because I literally don't have space. Why do you always come here when I'm filming? Why you think this has to be about you, huh? You think it should all be about you? Is that what this is? She doesn't like to be held though. Can't come in here and just stand in the space. Oh my gosh, the lighting situation is horrible because, like, I have completely lost sunlight and yeah, it just hasn't been great, but hopefully you could see the books okay, and that's what matters, right? Also, if anyone's wondering about the rainbow, I mean, if you've been here before, you're probably not wondering about the rainbow. I've done some pretty weird things with the makeup on my face, but I am going to Midsummer Carnival tomorrow, which is a Pride event. So I was just, you know, making sure that this is what I wanted to do for my makeup tomorrow, basically. Anyways, yeah, those are all the books I acquired in the second half of 2023. I need to get some reading done this year and get rid of some books this year. Let me know what's the last book you hold, or if you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought of them. Let me know if there's some books that you think are particularly good that I should prioritize reading first. And otherwise, I will see you next time. Now, Ginger Snaps is behind the iPad. Please do not knock it. I will see you next time. Tita Fan, Stasi out.